What's up everyone, it's Blue here at Blue Bears Games, and today's video will be my upgrade guide for the Lost Caverns of Ixalan Explorers of the Deep Commander Precon. Before I get to today's video, I want to first take a moment to let you know that if you'd like to help support my channel, you can do so in the following ways. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, share any of my content on your socials so other people can discover it, and or watch some of my many other videos yourself. In addition to that, if you're interested in ways that you can help support my channel monetarily, please read the description of this video, and there you will find a myriad of options for what you can do to help me keep this channel going. Anything that you can do to help is greatly appreciated, and I thank you for it. Now with that out of the way, let's begin. I've done enough of these guides by now that you should know the deal, but just in case you don't, here's how I do them. I'll start by showing you the cards that I would recommend removing first, and then I'll show you the cards that I would add back in that I believe would help make the deck either more fun to play a little better, or best case scenario, both. Just like the Blood Rights upgrade guide, this one will mostly just be small upgrades to some cards that were a little subpar because this deck wasn't bad out of the box. At its very core, this is simply just a Merfolk Tribal / Kin Comet based deck. So this guide will lean more heavily into that, but with a couple of fun cards that give some control aspects to give it a little more resiliency. The first thing that I'll mention is that the legend they chose for the commander, Hackball of the Surging Soul, is not a bad choice for the leading role, so I'll be keeping that as the commander for this guide. However, Kumina, Tyrant of Araska isn't a bad choice either, but would change how the sub-theme of +1/+1 counters would work, and not necessarily in a good way. You can choose whichever you like, but just know that there are pluses and minuses to both, and I prefer Hackball helming this deck the way it stands. Now let me get to the rest of this guide, starting with what I believe you should take out. I would remove Temple of Mystery, Temple of the False God, Simic Signet, Explorer, Benthic Biomancer, Thieving Skydiver, Kiora's Follower, Vrel of the Whole Clade, Prime Speaker Zagana, Tishana Voice of Thunder, Ripples of Potential, Quandrix Command, Ruinous Intrusion, and Bygone Marvels. That's 14 cards in total that I would remove, and most of them have replacements that can do what they do repeatedly or for less mana, so none of them will be missed. There's also a lot of ways in this deck to get cards into your hand, so I needed room to address ways of keeping those cards. So let's go over what 14 cards I believe will help make this deck better. First up is a land called Shifting Woodland. This is a newer card with a pretty useful ability. As long as you have enough different types of cards in your graveyard, it can copy a permanent card in your grave, which could be something that you need to win the game with. Basically, it's just a very useful ability. As for ramp, this deck will have a relatively low mana curve, so while I recommended removing 2 ramp style cards, I'll only suggest adding one back in called Thought Vessel. As I just mentioned a few moments ago, this is one of the cards that I'll recommend to help keep all those cards you'll probably have in your hand when this build really gets going. Moving on to creatures, there are 8 that I believe would be much better fits. The first 3 are Vidalian Hexcatcher, Lord of Atlantis, and Merc-Fiend Liege. As you can see, these are all lords, 2 for merfolk specifically, and 1 for blue and green creatures in general. Each of them also gives additional effects as well, but the Merc-Fiend Lieges will be especially good when you see the other cards I have in store to show you. The 4th creature is called Thada Adel Acquisitor. This will replace the Thieving Skydiver specifically. Instead of a really limited one-time effect of stealing an opponent's artifact, this can do it multiple times, and even has built-in evasion to aid in doing so. The 5th creature is called Lull Mage Mentor. This will add in some much-needed control, but it will also enable a few of the other cards I'm about to recommend shortly. It also helps partially advance the go-wide combat strategy at the same time because of its potential to create creature tokens for you. The 6th creature is called Sea Hunter. Tutors are good. Repeatable tutors are great. Sure, it doesn't tutor for anything but merfolk cards, but that's all it needs to do. The 7th creature is called Sentinel of the Nameless City. This will be the only card I recommend that deals with the Explorer subtheme because I believe it has enough cards to support it out of the box. What I liked about this card was that it makes tokens that let you explore, which means you can save them for when you really just need to explore, if that's such a thing. And the 8th and final creature for this section is Thrasios Triton Hero. It's well known that this is one of the better commanders in the game, but it's also a great creature to use in the 99 as well in any deck that has access to Simic colors. Next, I will recommend 3 enchantments that you should add that will really take this deck to the next level. The first enchantment is called Wizard Class. All 3 levels of this class are relevant here. The no max hand size adds redundancy to Reliquary Tower and Thought Vessel. Drawing cards is always good in Magic, and even the ability to put counters on creatures is useful in this build, all for 1 mana. The second enchantment is called Deep-Root Pilgrimage. This card can get really nuts in this build thanks to cards like Kumina and Low Mage Mentor. Also, don't forget that attacking taps creatures. But what will really make this go nuts is the third enchantment, Elven Chorus. With the amount of creatures in the deck, this is decent ramp, and the ability to cast creatures off the top of your library is great. But with Deep-Root Pilgrimage also on the battlefield, every time you tap a creature for mana, you now also get a 1/1 Merfolk creature token with hexproof. With a few lords in play, those 1/1s will be scary, but if an opponent is also playing blue or you have flood counters making opposing lands islands, then those tokens will get lethal quite quickly. Now, for the combo part of this guide, I've actually got 2 that I will show you, and this is an either-or situation because one is more budget-friendly than the other. The first one that I'll show you is the cheaper of the 2. It uses 1 card that came in the box, Kumina, Tyrant of Araska, 1 card that I recommended earlier, Deep-Root Pilgrimage, and the last card that I'll recommend adding to the deck, Intruder Alarm. This combination of cards can result in infinite +1/+1 counters among creatures you control, infinite card draw and draw triggers, infinite creature tokens, infinite enters the battlefield triggers, and infinite untap of all creatures. If you also happen to have Elven Chorus in play, it can also result in infinite mana as well. This combo is actually pretty straightforward and easy to understand, but in case you don't see how it works, check the link that just popped up at the top of your screen, and it will take you to an explanation of how it works. The second combo that I'll show you also uses Deep-Root Pilgrimage. The other card needed for this to work is a little on the pricey side, and is a little harder to acquire due to its age and lack of reprints, but if you're okay with spending a little money, then you would add Wanderwine Prophets. This combo requires a little work because Wanderwine Prophets needs to be able to deal combat damage to an opponent, but luckily they added Rogue's Passage and Athasa God of the Sea in the box to help aid this along. If you're able to pull this off though, the result is infinite turns, which isn't a win con necessarily, but if you can't win with infinite turns, then I'm not sure what to tell you. Again, if you don't know how this combo is accomplished, check the link that just popped up at the top of your screen right now, and it will take you to an explanation of how. And there you have it, folks, my upgrade guide for the Lost Caverns of Ixalan Explorers of the Deep Commander Precon. While everything that I just showed you might not make this Precon a top tier deck, it will make it more consistent and slightly better overall. This was one of my favorite decks that I've unboxed and upgraded to date. Fish, or Merfolk Tribal/Kin, was actually the first deck I ever made that was specifically combat based, so it holds some sentimental value for me. This may actually be the first Precon that I keep together to use, with a couple of upgrades of course. That's 3 out of the 4 Precons from this set so far that were all pretty much bangers right from the start. From what I have seen online, the Veloci-Ramptor Precon is supposed to be the best of the 4, but going by what I've seen so far, I can't imagine that's possible. I guess we will all find out together next week, so please be sure to join me for that. So, that's all I've got for you this week. Thanks for watching, and if you're looking for more content to watch, please browse my playlists, as I'm sure you'll find more of my videos that you'll enjoy. Before you go, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel so you can be notified when I release new content. Have a nice day, and I hope to see you next Friday for the Veloci-Ramptor precon unboxing.